The galaxy was watching. No, not metaphorically, billions of sentient beings across countless star systems had their sensors, quantum-entangled feeds, and psychic probes tuned to a single event. Every 1,000 cycles, the most powerful species competed in a contest unlike any other, a battle of strategy, innovation, and survival. The winner didn't just claim victory. They shaped the political, technological, and economic destiny of the universe. The reigning champions, the Zyxor Dominion, had held their title for the last 50,000 years. They were an insectoid race with neural networks so advanced that their weakest minds could predict planetary orbits centuries in advance. They had crushed every competitor using tactics so precise that their battles unfolded as if written in stone before they even began. Then came the announcement. Humanity had been selected as a challenger. The galactic community erupted in laughter. The humans had barely left their own star system. They had no psychic abilities, no interdimensional technology, no hive mind intelligence. Yet, when Earth's 3 representatives stepped onto the Omni field, they wore something no one had seen in the trials before. Grins. The first challenge was a simple one, a one-on-one duel in a no-gravity environment where time and physics could be manipulated within set boundaries. The Zyxor champion, Exornect, was a blur. Their 6 razor-sharp appendages flickered through the air, moving faster than human eyes could track. The Zyxor had already calculated every possible move the human could make before the match even started. Earth's fighter, a former aerospace engineer named Riley Carter, wasn't the strongest or fastest human. But she had something else. Instead of trying to match Exornect's speed, she did the one thing no rational opponent would do. She tripped herself. On purpose. The Zyxor's first strike missed completely. The second strike was thrown off by an erratic backflip. The third never came, because Exornect paused in sheer confusion. Riley wasn't dodging in any predictable way. She was stumbling, rolling, laughing, moving like an absolute idiot. To the onlookers, it seemed like she had lost control. But to humans, this was something else. Unpredictability. Feints within feints. Chaos where the Zyxor demanded order. Every one of Exornect's predictive calculations failed. Their strikes hit empty space. Their anticipated blocks met no resistance. Within moments, Riley had danced her way inside their guard, where she flicked their central sensory node with a smirk and a whisper. Tag. Exornect collapsed. For the first time in history, a Zyxor had lost in direct combat. The Galactic Council stopped laughing. If the first round was a fluke, the second would put humans in their place. Each team was given a limited set of resources and tasked with building a fleet to wage war against their opponent. The Zyxor had an entire armada, pre-designed by their tactical AI and optimized to absolute efficiency. Their warships were mathematically flawless, arranged in formations that had crushed civilizations for millennia. Humanity? They had 3 ships and a junkyard's worth of scrap metal. The galactic audience scoffed. This wouldn't even be a battle. Then the first engagement began. The Zyxor moved in with surgical precision, expecting a direct confrontation. But before they could strike, boom, one of their own ships exploded. The cause? Human trickery. They had booby-trapped the debris field around their inferior ships. The Zyxor had flown into a minefield without even realizing it. Confused, the Zyxor adjusted their approach, preparing a counterattack. They calculated the next optimal move, deployed their fleet. Boom. Another explosion. This time, they realized that the humans weren't playing fair. They had faked their own weakness, creating decoy distress signals, luring the Zyxor into false victories. They sabotaged their own ships in ways that forced the Zyxor into disadvantageous positions. They wasted resources in ways that made no sense, until the Zyxor realized, too late, that every wasted piece had been repurposed into a hidden fleet of drone ships, waiting to strike. In one final, desperate attack, the humans led the Zyxor into what seemed to be the perfect ambush. The Zyxor, thinking they had won, moved in for the killing blow. That's when the humans activated their final trick, a gravitational chain reaction that collapsed an entire gas giant, wiping out the entire battlefield. No one had ever won the war simulation by removing the battlefield itself. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Zyxor lost a strategic engagement. The Galactic Council fell into stunned silence. The final round was meant to be a formality. A duel of pure thought, where champions linked their minds to the cosmic core, a hyperdimensional network where reality itself bent to the will of its user. The Zyxor had never lost this round. Their minds were vast, stretching across multiple quantum dimensions. The moment the duel began, their champion fractured into 10,000 thought forms, mapping every neuron in the human mind. They saw everything. Human logic was primitive. Their emotions were erratic, their thoughts filled with contradictions. The Zyxor prepared to shatter the human psyche with ease. Then something went wrong. The Zyxor weren't just seeing human logic. They were seeing dreams, imagination, absurdity, fictional realities that made no sense, yet somehow existed. The human mind didn't follow the same rules. Where the Zyxor demanded structure, humans created chaos. Where the Zyxor built strategies, humans built stories. The Zyxor champions screamed as they became trapped in an endless loop of paradoxes, humor, and impossible scenarios. They fought an enemy who could change the rules of reality at will, not through brute force, but by thinking in ways no other species could. And then, the humans stopped. They had won, but they refused to finish the game. Standing at the final threshold, Earth's champions smiled and spoke to the silent galaxy. "We don't want dominion. We want an alliance." The Zyxor, for the first time in their existence, hesitated. They had expected war, conquest, revenge. Instead, they were offered a handshake. And in that moment, the Zyxor realized the true power of humanity. Not their strength, not their technology, but their ability to change the game itself. And that terrified them more than anything. The Galactic Council chamber fell into absolute silence. The entire universe had watched humanity defy the unbreakable order of the Dominion Trials, not just by winning, but by refusing to claim dominion. The Zyxor, the oldest and most feared champions, stood paralyzed. Their central hive mind, a vast consciousness spanning thousands of years, could not comprehend the offer they had just received. Their leader, Overmind Zelthos, flickered into view, an enormous being, suspended in a liquid tank of shimmering gold, its millions of eyes blinking in sequences that would take a lesser species a lifetime to decode. It had foreseen every possible outcome of the trials. Except this one. "Explain," Zelthos' voice boomed, vibrating through psychic wavelengths. Earth's lead representative, Dr. Evelyn Cho, stepped forward with that infuriatingly human smile. "It's simple. We don't believe in ruling others. We believe in something bigger." Zelthos narrowed its countless eyes. "You decline absolute power? This is madness." The Zyxor's military caste hissed in the background, their exoskeletons clicking in frustration. The galactic audience was waiting, hanging on every moment. This was supposed to be the moment where the victors reshaped the galaxy. And yet, humanity, the most unexpected winners in Dominion history, were choosing diplomacy over domination. Dr. Cho nodded. "That's the thing about humans. We don't win by crushing others. We win by making the game bigger than anyone expected." She turned toward the vast audience of alien species watching across the cosmos. "For thousands of years, you've all played by the Zyxor's rules. But we just proved something today. Rules can be changed. We're not here to replace them. We're here to invite you to something greater." A murmur spread across the assembled species. The Drekvar, a reptilian warrior race, growled in confusion. The Etherborn, shimmering beings of liquid plasma, pulsed with unreadable energy. Even the usually indifferent Kthari, who observed time in nonlinear sequences, paused in consideration. For the first time, the galaxy was seeing something different. Zelthos' mind raced at impossible speeds, running simulation after simulation. Every logical path led to only two conclusions. Crush the humans immediately, retain the old order, or accept their offer. Risk losing control of the galaxy forever. The answer should have been obvious. The Zyxor had never been challenged like this before. They had ruled the Dominion Trials for 50,000 years. They were the architects of logic, the masters of probability. And yet, they hesitated, because deep within their overmind, a new calculation had formed. One that terrified them. For all their intelligence, all their calculations, the Zyxor had never encountered a species like humans. Humans were not bound by prediction. They defied expectations. Where others saw rules, they saw possibilities. Where others followed patterns, they broke them on purpose. Where others pursued dominion, they offered something else entirely. A new kind of power. Not through force, not through conquest, but through sheer adaptability, the ability to reshape the game itself. Zelthos saw a future it could not control. And that, more than anything else, was what truly terrified the Zyxor. For the first time in 50,000 years, the Zyxor were uncertain. A single clawed appendage emerged from Zelthos's massive containment field. Slowly, it extended toward Dr. Cho. A universal symbol. A handshake. The galactic audience exploded in uproar. Some species were horrified. Others were intrigued. And some, those who had lived under Zyxor rule for centuries, began to see something they had long forgotten. Hope. The Zyxor had just acknowledged a new force in the galaxy. Humanity had done the impossible. They had not just won the Dominion Trials, they had broken the cycle entirely. Deep in the shadows of the council chambers, a dozen alien species watched in silence. The Echelon Confederacy, a secretive network of old-world rulers who had thrived under Zyxor Dominion, saw their power slipping. The Phantom Lords of Hector Prime, warlords who profited from the trials, realized that if the Dominion system fell, their entire empire would collapse. Even the Zyxor's own war caste, bred for conquest and extermination, did not approve of Zelthos's decision. A message was sent across dark channels. The humans must be removed. Immediately. At that exact moment, somewhere in deep space, a fleet of black, unseen warships activated their weapons. Humanity had changed the game. But the old players weren't going to let them win so easily. As the galactic crowd erupted in disbelief, the hidden forces of the Echelon Confederacy, the Phantom Lords of Hector Prime, and the Zyxor's war caste moved swiftly. The humans had changed the game. But now the old rulers of the galaxy had made their move. Dark fleet signals flickered across encrypted networks. Stealth warships, cloaked in exotic matter, activated their jump drives. Their target, the Terran delegation. This wasn't just about crushing humanity. This was about sending a message to the entire galaxy that the old way of dominion would not be challenged. Back in the Omni field, Dr. Evelyn Cho and the human delegation were still standing before Zelthos when a new presence made itself known. A deep, resonant voice, ancient, heavy with command, spoke through the council chambers. Enough of this charade. From the shadows, a figure emerged. High Chancellor Veilcor of the Echelon Confederacy. His species, the Veari, were old, perhaps even older than the Zyxor. They had never fought in the trials. They had never needed to. Their power lay in control, manipulation, and silent governance of the galaxy's major players. And right now, Veilcor was furious. For thousands of years, we have maintained order. The Dominion Trials are not a game. They are the foundation of power. And yet, he sneered at the humans. You disrupt it. Mock it. Twist it into an absurdity. Dr. Cho, still standing firm, crossed her arms. So you're mad that we won? Veilcor's reptilian eyes narrowed. You did not win. You cheated. You refused to claim dominion because you know you cannot wield it. And that makes you dangerous. The chamber tensed. The Galactic Council was divided, some watching in silence, others whispering among themselves. And then, a sudden shockwave. Across the chamber, emergency warnings flared. Unauthorized warships had entered the system. The humans were under attack. Above the Council planet, black warships decloaked, each one bristling with hyperlance cannons, disruptor torpedoes, and gravimetric pulse weapons. They weren't here to negotiate. They were here to erase humanity from history. On board the Terran strike carrier Andromeda, Admiral Lance Erickson saw the incoming fleet and immediately understood. This wasn't a test. This wasn't a skirmish. This was an execution. All Terran vessels, full combat alert. Erickson barked. Deploy countermeasures. Get the delegates out of there, now. The human fleet was outnumbered 20-1. The attackers were using cloaked ships that didn't even officially exist. But humanity had never fought fair. Launch the Loki Protocol, Erickson ordered. Within seconds, every human ship in the fleet began emitting false sensor signals, appearing as thousands of additional warships on enemy radars. The Echelon fleet hesitated, just for a fraction of a second. But in war, a fraction of a second was all humanity needed. Back in the council chambers, security systems activated, but it was too late. Assassins appeared from nowhere, cloaked, silent, armed with energy blades. Their target, Dr. Evelyn Cho. Before the assassins could strike, a brutal, clicking hiss echoed through the chamber. The Zyxor moved. For the first time in history, Zelthos himself deployed his war caste to protect humanity. The insectoid warriors struck like a hurricane, tearing through the assassins with precision. The galaxy watched in horror. The Zyxor had chosen a side, and they had chosen humanity. The battle raged above the planet. But something was different. Other species, seeing the Zyxor defend the humans, began to hesitate. Some even turned on their own fleets. The Drekvar warlords, long resentful of the Echelon Confederacy, joined the fight on humanity's side. The Etherborn, neutral for centuries, unleashed their void energy weapons on the Phantom Lord's ships. For the first time in millennia, the galaxy was not obeying the old rules. Veilcor, watching from the council floor, realized what was happening. He was losing control. The Phantom Lords, the shadow rulers of the Dominion Trials, were falling. And humanity, the impossible, unpredictable species that had defied the rules of power, was at the center of it all. With the Phantom Lords destroyed, with the old order in flames, the Galactic Council turned to the humans. For the second time that day, Dr. Cho stood before the galaxy. "Today we proved something," she said, her voice carried across every star system. "We proved that dominion through force is a dead system. We proved that the game can change." The council waited. And then Dr. Cho did something unthinkable. She reached out a hand. Not in conquest. Not in victory. But in alliance. To the Zyxor. To the Drekvar. To the Etherborn. To all those who had suffered under the old system. Let's build something better. For the first time in history, the galaxy saw a new path. Not one of endless cycles of dominance and war. But one where humanity led not through power, but through change. And as the stars watched, as the old rulers crumbled, one truth became clear. Humanity had not just won the Dominion Trials. They had ended them forever. The Dominion Trials were over. But the consequences had just begun. The galactic order that had existed for 50,000 years was dead. The Phantom Lords were gone, the Echelon Confederacy was in retreat, and the Zyxor, once the enforcers of Dominion rule, had sided with humanity. But victory was never the end of war. It was the beginning of something much harder. Rebuilding. Dr. Evelyn Cho stood at the edge of the newly renamed Terran Accord Summit, no longer a challenger in the Dominion Trials, but a leader in a new galactic alliance. And that meant dealing with the aftermath. Though the Phantom Lords were eliminated, the old power structures had not disappeared overnight. The Echelon Confederacy still had influence. Rogue warlords, intelligence operatives, and remnants of the Dominion Trials still refused to accept this new future. High Chancellor Veilcor had vanished after his fleet's defeat. His last transmission had been chilling. "You think you've won. You've merely delayed the inevitable." That wasn't just a threat. It was a promise. For the first time in their history, the Zyxor were no longer in control. Their overmind Zelthos had chosen humanity over dominion, fracturing their vast hive mind. Some Zyxor embraced the alliance, seeing humanity as the next step in evolution. But others saw weakness. The war caste, bred for domination, viewed peace as an aberration. Whispers of rebellion spread through the Zyxor ranks. Some commanders believed that Zelthos had been compromised, that the Overmind's decision to back the humans had been an error that needed correcting. And in the cold darkness of the void, a rogue Zyxor fleet disappeared into the unknown. Even as the Terran Accord gained new members, species long oppressed by the Dominion Trials, humanity faced a new kind of war. Not open conflict, but sabotage, infiltration, subterfuge. A silent war was beginning. On the industrial moon of Velkair, a hidden Dominion weapons cache self-destructed, obliterating a newly established Terran Accord colony. On the diplomatic station of Kephos Prime, an assassin disguised as a human detonated a psi-bomb at a high-level meeting, nearly killing the Zyxor Overmind Zelthos. And on Earth itself, at the very heart of humanity's new interstellar rise, a hidden transmission was intercepted. It carried Veilcor's voice. "We do not need a dominion to rule the galaxy. We only need to remove its greatest disruption. Humanity has rewritten the game. Now we will erase them from it." In the depths of space, beyond known hyperspace lanes, a secret fleet was assembling. Not Zyxor. Not Phantom Lords. Something older. Something that had been waiting for the Dominion Trials to fall. Veilcor was just the beginning. Humanity had not just broken the rules of power. They had drawn the attention of something far, far worse. Something that had been watching the trials for longer than the Zyxor themselves. And now, the true war for the galaxy was about to begin.